And joining me now with more insight into this decision is Jonah Blank. He's a foreign policy expert and a senior political scientist at the RAND Corporation. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back to the show. Jonah, we heard that in the report, the U.S. president reminding everyone that American troops have been in that country for more than a dozen years now. And if Afghan troops aren't ready to handle their own country's security situation by now, will they ever?
It's a good question, Elaine. And one of the important things to understand is that on the ground, Afghan troops are really able to handle the Taliban. The question is, are they willing to do it? In Kunduz, as we saw, about 7,000 Afghan National Security Forces troops were driven out of position by a Taliban force that has been estimated to be in the hundreds. This seems more like a political issue than a purely military one in Kunduz. Second point to understand is that there are a lot of capabilities that the Afghan National Security Forces don't have. Air support, close air support, medevac, air mobility, a lot of the higher end military specialties that it will take many years to build up. So what the president was doing really was providing a continued commitment to provide these types of niche supports that can make the difference between success and failure.
You know, he made a promise when he ran for president about 8 years ago, and these troops are going to say, so was he not fully informed when making those statements about the real situation on the ground, or what's really changed between then and now?
Well, I think he has kept his promise. I think he really fully intended and still fully intends to keep U.S. troops out of combat in Afghanistan. And it may seem like a small distinction, but it's a pretty big one. The second point is things have changed on the ground in Afghanistan. In 2009, when President Obama took office, the United States did not have an effective civilian partner. President Hamid Karzai was quite outspoken about his unwillingness to allow American forces to remain. By contrast, current President Ashraf Ghani and Chief Executive Abdullah have been very strongly pleading for more U.S. support. So there is a partner now, and there was not a partner then.
Well, what do you make of the timing of this announcement when we just saw about a week ago a U.S. strike in Kunduz mistakenly on this Doctors Without Borders hospital? Is there anything to the timing of all this? A lot of people were maybe surprised that there were U.S. forces flying in the air dropping bombs.
Yes. Well, the first thing, of course, is that this attack in Kunduz was a terrible, terrible tragedy. And the first thing we all have to keep in mind, just again and again, is that MSF, Doctors Without Borders, are doing wonderful work in Afghanistan and elsewhere in the world where people are afraid to go all too often. So I think we have to remind ourselves of that all the time. On the specific point about U.S. air power, opening fire on a hospital, that is completely contrary to U.S. rules of engagement and to the laws of war. As President Obama made clear, we have to determine, was this a mistake? Was this more of a conscious decision? If it was a conscious decision, then the people responsible have to be punished to the full extent of the law.
30 seconds left. Why are we seeing a Taliban resurgence?
I think that Mullah Mansour, the commander of the Taliban, is facing a two-front battle, even a three-front battle against the government troops in Afghanistan, against his own dissidents, and against ISIL, which is making a huge effort to take over the Taliban movement in Afghanistan and throughout the region.
All right, a complicated situation. We'll have more on this. Jonah Blank, thank you so much, as always, for being here.
Thank you, Elaine.